Morning at Seoul National University felt bustling. Freshmen wandered the hallways of the lecture buildings, busy searching for classrooms or chatting with new friends. Among them were two figures that stood out, Jungkook and Park Yin. Jungkook, a handsome student with a sharp face and cold gaze, walked unhurriedly. His steps were confident, his tall frame wrapped in a stylish jacket. His striking good looks drew many eyes, especially from female students who openly showed their interest. Yet Jungkook merely glanced at them briefly, showing no interest whatsoever. In another corner, Yin stepped into the faculty building with confidence. Her long, wavy hair flowed freely, her bright face, glowing with flawless fair skin and a soft smile gracing her rosy lips. Her elegant stride down the campus corridor also caught many eyes. Unlike Jungkook, who was aloof, Yin responded to people's glances with polite smiles. Yin, good morning, greeted a handsome guy, Bam Bam. Yin smiled brightly. Good morning. Come on, let's head to class together, he said, and Yin nodded. Wait, another handsome guy approached them, Yugyeom. Yin, good morning. Yin smiled at him too. Good morning. However, Bam Bam looked visibly annoyed. Yin, let's go to class together, Yugyeom said, attempting to grab her hand. Before Yin could push him away, Bam Bam quickly intervened. Hey, for your information, I asked Yin first. Bam Bam protested. What are you talking about? Yin wants to go with me, Yugyeom replied. Hey, Yugyeom, stop being a nuisance, Bam Bam snapped with a sharp glare. Yin watched them both with a confused look. Excuse me, you two can continue arguing, but I'm going inside, bye. From a distance, Jungkook observed the scene with a smirk, scoffing to himself. What a hypocritical girl, he muttered before heading to his class. Inside the classroom, they happened to sit near each other. While Yin could be friendly with others, she always felt nervous around Jungkook. It wasn't because of his good looks but rather his cold and indifferent demeanor. Jungkook, on the other hand, regarded Yin with skepticism. She was beautiful and drew the attention of many guys, and to him, that was enough reason to dislike her. The lecture session proceeded calmly. Yin seemed focused on listening to the professor, occasionally jotting down notes, while Jungkook leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. When the lecture ended, several female students quickly approached Jungkook. Jungkook, join us for lunch later, okay? One of them said sweetly, trying to get his attention. Jungkook looked at them blankly. Not interested, he replied curtly. The girls looked disappointed, but managed to maintain polite smiles before walking away. Meanwhile, from the desk nearby, Yin observed the scene, quietly scoffing. What's so great about a conceited guy like him? She muttered while packing her books. But when their gazes met, Jungkook's cold, piercing eyes startled her. What are you looking at? Jungkook asked, his tone dripping with sarcasm. Caught off guard, Yin hadn't expected him to address her directly. I wasn't looking at anything. Don't flatter yourself, she retorted defensively before quickly walking out of the classroom. Outside the classroom, Jungkook walked briskly toward the campus cafeteria. His mind was a whirlwind of mixed emotions. He knew his behavior might come off as rude, but he couldn't help himself. Every time he saw a pretty girl approaching him, he was reminded of his older brother's painful experiences. His brother, V, had always been distrusting, and it often left him hurt in his relationships. Every girl who approached V was only interested in what their family's wealth could offer. Flashback. At that time, Jungkook had just started middle school, and he was shocked to see his older brother, who was in his senior year of high school, coming home in a fit of rage. Curious about what had happened, Jungkook decided to ask. Brother, what's wrong? Why are you so upset? Jungkook asked. V glanced briefly at his younger brother. I don't know what's wrong with girls these days. They're all so materialistic. They only get close to me because they want something, mostly because they know about our family. And I've even tried to hide my true identity, V vented, ruffling his hair roughly. Come on, who wouldn't know you're the eldest son of the TJ Group owners? It's funny that you even tried to hide it. If it were me hiding my identity, it would make more sense, Jungkook replied. There's no such thing as a sincere girl in this world. Forget it. I'd rather just focus on graduating and doing well in college, he said. And Jungkook, you'd better be careful when you start dating later. Always choose someone loyal over someone beautiful. Beauty is pointless if all they do is take advantage, he added, leaving Jungkook sighing as he watched him walk away. Jungkook took his brother's words to heart. Yet, as time went on, he saw that V struggled even more in college. His brother frequently switched girlfriends, not because he was a playboy, but because he couldn't find someone genuinely sincere. Every time V broke up with someone, he would be sad and withdrawn and spend hours brooding behind their house. Another breakup? Jungkook asked as he sat next to his brother. V let out a frustrated sigh. Without an answer, Jungkook already knew the truth. Brother, come on, how much longer are you going to keep doing this? Date, break up, date again, and break up again. Aren't you tired of it? V shot him a sharp look. Hey, you think I want to live like this? Do you know that none of the girls I dated were ever sincere with me? It pisses me off so much. Damn it. Jungkook sighed deeply. You're the one who said to be careful choosing a girl, but you keep picking the wrong ones, he commented. V nodded. You're right. You need to be cautious, Jungkook. Those girls will only use you. They might look sweet, but deep down, all they care about is your money or status. V patted Jungkook's shoulder lightly before heading inside the house. Flashback ends. Those words were etched deeply in Jungkook's mind. It was why he became cold and distrustful of any girl who tried to approach him. He always thought, no one is truly sincere. Whenever a girl tried to get close, he rejected them harshly, preventing them from hurting him the way his brother had been hurt. Meanwhile, Yin walked out of the classroom with a mix of emotions. What's with that guy? She muttered to herself. Jungkook's cold demeanor infuriated her, yet at the same time, it sparked her curiosity. She looked at his handsome face, but his eyes seemed to carry suspicion toward everyone around him. When she arrived at the cafeteria, several of their classmates were already gathered. Yin, sit here, called Mina, one of her close friends, with a wide smile. Yin returned the smile and quickly joined her group of friends. Yin kept glancing toward Jungkook's table in the corner, where he was sitting with his male friends. Once again, a girl approached him, offering him a drink, and as usual, Jungkook coldly turned her down. Yin started wondering what was going on with Jungkook. Why is he always so cold to girls, almost as if he hates them? Suddenly, one of her friends, Yuju, tapped Yin's arm, pulling her out of her thoughts. Yin, what's up? Who are you looking at? Yin flinched and gave an awkward smile. Oh, no one. I wasn't looking at anyone. Yuju followed Yin's gaze toward Jungkook. Oh, Jungkook, huh? That cold guy who always rejects girls. Do you like him? Yin quickly shook her head. No way. He's so arrogant, completely emotionless. How could I possibly like someone like that? Yuju chuckled, but he's handsome. Lots of girls are into him. You know, my older sister's boyfriend is like Jungkook, cold on the outside, but really warm on bed. Hearing that, Yin frowned in confusion. Mina nodded in agreement with Yuju. It's true, guys who are cold on the outside tend to be really warm when it comes to that stuff. Warm how? He's obviously super cold. Yin blinked repeatedly, trying to understand. Oh, come on, don't talk about this stuff in front of Yin. She's still innocent. Don't ruin her pure, untouched mind, Yuna chimed in with a smirk. Yin tried her best to ignore her friends, who were enthusiastically discussing something she found vague and strange. She had an inkling about the topic, but didn't know the details, and even thinking about it made her feel embarrassed. Yuna, look at Yin. Her face is bright red. Don't tell me she's never dated anyone, teased Yuju, looking at Yin with curiosity. Never dated, let alone know about stuff like that, Mina added, covering her mouth as she giggled. Yin snapped out of her thoughts. What do you mean by that? I don't understand what you're talking about. Mina and Yuju exchanged glances and burst out laughing. Yin, you really don't get it? No way. Yuju feigned shock. Oh my gosh, she's so innocent. So, you've never watched or read anything mature? Mina asked, lowering her voice but still loud enough for Yin to hear. What? Of course not. Why would I watch something like that? Yin stammered, her face turning even redder. Yuna, who had been quietly observing, smirked. Don't be too harsh on Yin. She's probably the type who's never even kissed anyone, right? Yin glared at Yuna. Yuna, why are you joining in? Well, if you've never dated, it makes sense, Yuju teased. Your first kiss will probably be on your wedding day. Mina leaned closer with a playful grin. But seriously, Yin, aren't you even a little curious about dating, kissing, or, you know, the stuff beyond that? Yin's face grew even redder. She looked down, stirring her food. I don't think about things like that, and you guys are weird for talking about this in the cafeteria. Mina laughed softly, nudging Yuju. See, she's totally innocent. But imagine if someone like Jungkook taught Yin about those things. What do you think? What? Don't bring him into this. I have nothing to do with him. Yin quickly dismissed the absurd idea. If he were the one teaching you, you'd probably catch on quickly, Yin. Yuju teased with a sly grin. Cold guys like him, they say, can get really hot when it's just the two of you. Yin covered her face with both hands. Oh my gosh, stop it. You're all so shameless. Despite her embarrassment, for some reason, a fleeting image of Jungkook crossed her mind. She shook her head, trying to get rid of the thought. Yin let out a long sigh, trying to steer the conversation elsewhere, but Mina and Yuju seemed far from finished. Hey, Yin, seriously though, Yuju said, leaning closer to her. Aren't you even a little curious? Like, what it feels like to have your first kiss, or to be hugged by a guy you like? Yin rolled her eyes, her face still flushed. Why are you guys so obsessed with talking about this stuff? It's not important. Not important? Mina giggled, glancing at Yuju. Imagine if Jungkook suddenly kissed you, Yin. Would you still say it's not important? Yin choked on the juice she was drinking and started coughing. Her friends burst into laughter. See? Just imagine it. And she's already panicking. Yuju patted Yin's back, trying to calm her down as her face turned as red as a ripe tomato. I don't want to imagine anything like that. And why would it be Jungkook? I have nothing to do with him, Yin said, her voice hushed, hoping no one at the nearby tables overheard their conversation. Well, it's because Jungkook is the mysterious type. Guys like him usually fall harder when they're in love. Maybe with you, he'd teach you all sorts of things, Mina teased, nudging Yin's arm. Enough, I don't want to hear this. Yin covered her ears with both hands. Yuna, quietly enjoying the situation, finally spoke up. You know, Yin, being too innocent can actually attract guys like him. They love a challenge, especially if you're clueless about relationships. I don't care, and I'm sure Jungkook doesn't care about me either, Yin said, trying to sound convincing, though she felt a little unsure inside. Okay, let's not tease her anymore, Yuna finally said, holding back her laughter. Yin, don't worry, we won't force you to learn about stuff like that. Not yet anyway. Unbeknownst to her, from the corner table, Jungkook stole a glance in her direction. He couldn't hear their conversation but noticed her laughter and blushing face. What's up? What are you looking at, bro? Minju asked, snapping him out of his thoughts. Nothing, Jungkook replied curtly, returning his focus to his food. That night, in her bedroom, Yin lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling. Her mind kept drifting back to her encounter with Jungkook. Despite his cold and cynical demeanor, she felt there was more to him than mere arrogance. Why is he like that? I've never met a guy who seems so completely uninterested in girls, she murmured to herself. Meanwhile, in his own bedroom, Jungkook sat in his chair, deep in thought. He replayed the image of Yin's face during their argument in class. There was something in her eyes that made him pause. The girl seemed different from the rest. It was as if Yin wasn't interested in him at all, a stark contrast to the adoring looks he usually received from girls. With her, there was none of that. Days passed at the university, and Yin and Jungkook's interactions remained unchanged. Despite being in the same class, they continued to act like strangers. Yet, unbeknownst to them, subtle shifts were beginning to take place in their hearts. Yin found herself increasingly curious about why Jungkook showed no interest in girls. Meanwhile, Jungkook began to notice Yin in a way he never had before. She wasn't just another pretty face who captured the attention of every guy on campus. She might be the only girl who had never looked at him with admiration. One quiet afternoon in the campus corridor, Jungkook was walking alone. In a secluded corner, he spotted two people standing face to face. Narrowing his eyes, he realized it was Yin and Mark, one of the university's wealthy and handsome students. So, Yin, I really like you. Could you give me a chance? Mark said softly, his voice carrying just enough for Jungkook to overhear. Yin looked startled, as she always did when approached by someone. She took a deep breath and offered a polite smile, though uncertainty flickered in her eyes. I'm sorry, but I can't. I'm not sure about this. It's not that you're not attractive. It's just that I'm not ready, Yin replied gently but firmly. Mark looked disappointed, but managed a smile. I understand. At least we can still be friends, right? Yin's smile widened as she nodded. Friends? Sure. I'm okay with that. Mark smiled back and nodded before walking away, leaving Yin standing there alone. Jungkook observed the scene from a distance, his eyes narrowing in curiosity. Why does she always turn down every guy who approaches her? She has everything a girl could want: beauty, brains, wealth, but she always says no, he thought to himself. Even though Jungkook was known for his aloofness, he was well aware of Yin's popularity. His friends, Minju and Yoonwoo, often talked about her when they hung out, marveling at how she rejected every guy on campus. His curiosity grew, and he found himself paying more attention to her from afar. Without meaning to, he overheard her conversation with her friend, who had now joined her. Yin, why do you always reject every guy who confesses to you? Are your standards really that high? Even Jimin, the med student, got turned down yesterday, and today you said no to Mark. What's your deal? Yuju asked, now standing beside Yin. Yin looked unsure. She glanced at Yuju before letting out a small sigh. I don't know, Yuju. I've never really understood love. Yuju gave her a puzzled look. What do you mean? You've had so many guys interested in you. How can you not know when someone loves you? Yin shook her head slowly. I mean, yes, I know they love me, but I don't know what it feels like to truly like someone. I always feel confused when people talk about love. I'm not sure I've ever felt it. And sometimes I'm scared. Scared I'll choose the wrong person. Besides, how am I supposed to trust that a guy really loves me and isn't just playing with me? I don't know how to tell the difference. Jungkook, listening quietly from around the corner, was taken aback by her confession. She doesn't understand love, he thought. Until now, he'd assumed Yin was just a picky girl who only considered guys based on their status or looks. But from the way she spoke, Yin seemed genuinely innocent, even confused about her own feelings. Yuju nodded with a small smile. You're just too innocent about this stuff. You're not like other girls who immediately know when they're into someone. You're like a shy mama's girl when it comes to boys. Yin chuckled softly, a bit embarrassed. Maybe that's true. I've never seriously thought about dating. When it comes to boys, I always feel awkward. I don't feel comfortable, and I'm too shy to even think about those things. Yuju shook her head with a smile. Wow, Yin, you really are different, but that's not a bad thing. Maybe you just haven't found the right guy yet, the one who can make you feel comfortable. Jungkook listened intently. For the first time, he realized Yin wasn't the type of girl he had thought she was. She wasn't someone who took advantage of the attention and resources of the boys who liked her. Instead, she didn't even know how to respond to someone's feelings because she herself had never truly experienced love. Jungkook looked at Yin longer than usual. So, she's not who I thought she was. She's genuinely innocent, maybe even more so than she appears, he thought. A few days later, Yin was walking through a quiet hallway on campus. It was late afternoon, and only a few students were still lingering in the area. She had just left the library and was planning to head home when she overheard voices coming from the stairwell beside the corridor. Curious, she slowed her steps. It was Jungkook and a few of his close friends talking. I don't get it, Jungkook, Minju said. Why do you always turn down the girls who try to get close to you? A lot of them are pretty, smart, and seem genuine. Why not give them a chance? Jungkook stared straight ahead, his face expressionless. Genuine? He chuckled, but there was no joy in his laughter. You think they're genuine? Most of them only care about what I have, not who I am. His friends fell silent, listening closely. Jungkook continued in a cold tone. Ever since I was a kid, I've seen girls approach guys just for their looks or money. They act all sweet, but in the end, they just want to take advantage of what we can give them. My brother has been through that so many times. None of them truly cared for him. They only saw what he could offer. Yin, who had unknowingly paused behind the wall, found herself listening intently. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but Jungkook's voice was so clear, filled with emotion. As she listened, she began to understand something she'd never realized about him before. I can't just trust any girl who comes near me, Jungkook said softly, his voice carrying a hint of vulnerability. Minju nodded slowly, seeming to grasp his friend's perspective. But not all girls are like that, Jungkook. You should at least try. If it doesn't work out, you can end it. Maybe, Jungkook admitted, though his tone remained skeptical. But I'm not willing to take the risk. I don't want to get hurt or be used. It's better to stay cold and distant than to go through the pain my brother did. Yin let out a quiet sigh, stepping back slightly from the wall where she'd been standing. So that's why he acts that way toward all the girls, she whispered to herself. Jungkook's aloofness wasn't rooted in arrogance but in fear of being hurt. His distrust of women wasn't baseless. It stemmed from the painful experiences he'd witnessed his brother endure. He didn't want to get caught in a fake relationship or be used by someone who only cared about material things. Hearing that conversation, Yin felt her perception of Jungkook starts to shift. While she'd always found his cold and arrogant demeanor irritating, she now understood him a little better. He's not just a haughty guy who ignores others. He's like this because he's afraid of getting hurt, she murmured again. The next day, Yin and Jungkook were in the same class as usual. When Yin entered the classroom, she instinctively glanced around for Jungkook. As expected, he was sitting in his favorite spot with his friends. Normally, Yin would walk past without paying him any attention. But today, something felt different. A sense of empathy stirred within her. As she settled into her seat, Yuna approached her. Yin, what's up? You've been acting weird. It's like you're lost in thought. Yin turned and smiled awkwardly. No, it's nothing. I was just reminded of something. What is it? Yuna asked curiously. It's not important, just about someone who isn't quite what I thought he was, Yin replied with a shake of her head. Mina, who had overheard, chuckled. Oh, are we talking about Jungkook? You're always complaining about how annoying he is with his cold attitude. Has your opinion of him changed? Yin paused, her gaze shifting toward Jungkook, who was busy on his laptop. Maybe. I think I'm starting to understand why he acts the way he does. He's not just some cold, arrogant guy. He has his reasons. Yuju followed Yin's gaze and gave her a knowing smile. It seems like you're noticing him more than you realize. Yin sighed softly, a faint smile playing on her lips. Maybe, but that doesn't mean I like him or anything. Are you sure? Mina teased. Yin let out a small laugh, shaking her head. You've been watching too many dramas. This isn't about liking someone. I just understand him better now. Just then, Yin noticed that today's class atmosphere felt different. Most of their classmates were buzzing with excitement over one topic: dating apps. Hey, have you guys heard about that app? Apparently, a lot of people have found their soulmates on it, Rose exclaimed, waving her phone enthusiastically at her friends. I tried it yesterday, and it's actually pretty fun, even if it's just for meeting people or chatting, Lisa chimed in from the front row. Some even start out as friends, but who knows? Friendship can turn into something more, another classmate added. The classroom buzzed with laughter and curiosity as people shared stories, some about their experiences using the app and others expressing interest in trying it. I heard it can also match people based on shared interests and hobbies. It's like an algorithm for finding your perfect match, one student explained. Seriously? I need to try that. Maybe I won't be single anymore, someone joked. In the middle of the commotion, Yin sat quietly, observing the lively discussions around her. She didn't join in, her expression calm. Her eyes occasionally flicked to her classmates, but she had no interest in the topic. Dating apps? What's the point? Yin thought. She had never been particularly interested in relationships, especially not through modern methods like that. On the other side of the room, Jungkook sat with his usual blank expression, leaning back in his chair as he focused on his laptop. However, it was clear he was also listening to the conversation. Like Yin, Jungkook showed no interest. In fact, if anyone noticed, they might assume he was irritated by the discussion. What about you, Jungkook? Yoonwoo suddenly called out, drawing everyone's attention to the handsome, aloof student. Aren't you curious about the app? Maybe you could meet someone who matches your vibe. Jungkook slowly closed his laptop and looked at Yoonwoo with his usual blank stare. I don't trust dating apps. Yoonwoo laughed, but pressed on. Why not? You've never given the girls here a chance. Maybe you should try something different. Jungkook sighed lightly. It doesn't matter what method you use. If the goal is just to find a partner through a phone screen, I'm not interested. Besides, girls who look for guys on an app are usually just attracted to how they look. The first thing they see is a profile picture. From her seat, Yin raised an eyebrow as she overheard. He's really skeptical about relationships, huh? Internally, she agreed with some of what Jungkook was saying. Dating apps had never appealed to her. How can anyone genuinely fall in love just by looking at a picture and a profile of someone they've never even met? Yin thought. Come on, Jungkook, Minju teased. Not all girls are materialistic or only care about appearances. Some just want to try something new or make friends first. You don't have to take it so seriously. Jungkook shook his head. I don't need that, Minju. If I want to make friends, I can meet real people, not through an app. Yin, who had been quietly listening, finally exhaled deeply and murmured, he's right. Mina, sitting beside her, turned in surprise. What's right, Yin? Yin gave a faint smile. About dating apps. It feels weird meeting people through a screen. I don't think you can find anything real that way. Mina laughed. Wow. You're just like Jungkook. You're both so skeptical about stuff like this. But who knows? It could be a chance to meet someone compatible. Yin quickly shook her head. I'm not interested, Mina. For me, love isn't something you find through technology. It's more than just swiping left or right. I don't know. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned? No. You're not old-fashioned. You just have a different view of love, Mina said with a shrug. But I've got to say, you and Jungkook seem to share pretty similar perspectives on relationships. Yin paused, reflecting on Mina's words. Similar? Do we really? She glanced briefly at Jungkook, who was once again engrossed in his laptop. That afternoon, in the quiet of her spacious home, Yin sat on the living room sofa clutching a pillow tightly. The house was large and comfortable, but without her parents who were abroad, the silence felt hollow and a bit dull. Only the maid working in the kitchen was around, and she wasn't much for conversation. Yin tried to pass the time by watching a drama series, but after a few episodes, she grew bored. The plot is too slow, and the main character isn't what I expected, she thought as she turned off the television with the remote. With a long sigh, Yin murmured to herself, "What else can I do?" A wave of boredom washed over her. Suddenly, the conversation with her classmates earlier that day about the dating app popped into her mind. A small smile crept onto her face. They were so excited about it. Is it really that fun? At first, Yin shook her head. Those kinds of apps aren't for me, she said with a faint laugh. But as minutes ticked by, curiosity began to creep in. What's the harm in trying? I don't plan to date anyone, just messing around. Maybe even make a new friend to chat with. After a moment of internal debate, Yin picked up her phone. Quickly, she opened the app store and typed in the name of the app her friends had raved about earlier. This is just for fun. Nothing wrong with that, right? She reassured herself as she hit download. Once installed, she began to register, making sure not to use her real identity. I'm definitely not using my real name, she muttered while typing a pseudonym into the name field. What should it be? Leah. Simple enough, she chuckled softly as the name appeared on her new profile. When it came time to upload a profile picture, Yin decided against using a photo of herself. Instead, she opted for a blank avatar, a generic image without a face. This feels safer. I don't want anyone to know who I am, she reasoned. With her fake profile set up, Yin began exploring the app. She selected an age range similar to her own and started scrolling through profiles of potential matches. In no time, her screen was filled with images of handsome men accompanied by short descriptions of themselves. She scrolled down, observing one profile after another. Most of them had charming smiles, some even posing like professional models. And they're good looking. But are these photos even real? What if they're fake? Just like mine, she thought. She continued scrolling, but nothing caught her interest. A creeping sense of suspicion took hold. Maybe they're just like me, using fake photos, or worse, they just want to show off. For some reason, I feel like they're not genuine either. Yin's mind swirled with doubts. The attractive faces that should have grabbed her attention only made her more hesitant. Guys like this are probably all the same. They might not even be sincere and just want to play around, she muttered, swiping through profile after profile. One by one, the profiles passed without sparking her interest. Occasionally, she glanced at their bios, but most of them were too generic, offering no depth or connection. Finally, after several uneventful minutes, she closed the app with a sense of disappointment. So much for the hype my friends gave it. Maybe I was expecting too much. Or maybe I'm just not the kind of person who can connect with others through something like this. Yin didn't delete the app right away but leaned back on the sofa, lost in thought. While she'd hoped to find someone interesting to talk to, her brief experience with the app only deepened her skepticism. I don't need a dating app to talk to people. If someone really wants to be friends, there'll be a more natural way to connect. In the end, Yin allowed the boredom to remain, embracing the quiet solitude around her. A few days later, on a bright weekend morning, Jungkook sat in the expansive living room of his family home. The tranquility of the space was soon disrupted by the loud voice coming from the room next door. His older brother was on the phone, his tone laced with frustration and anger. Jungkook, accustomed to such scenes, let out a quiet sigh. He knew exactly what this was about. Another argument between his brother and his girlfriend. The shouting grew louder, muffled only slightly by the closed door. All you care about are gifts, aren't you? It's always the same. Do you even care about me? Or is it just about what I can give you? His brother's voice rang out. Jungkook shook his head. The same story, repeated over and over. Every relationship his brother entered seemed to end the same way, with disappointment and bitterness. After several minutes, the shouting ceased. Not long after, his brother appeared in the living room, his expression filled with frustration. He slumped onto the sofa next to Jungkook, burying his face in his hands. Another one? Jungkook asked flatly, though the answer was already obvious. His brother let out a long sigh and nodded. Yeah, another one. She only cared about expensive gifts, never about me. I'm so tired of girls like that, Jungkook. Jungkook remained silent, listening. He had heard these complaints countless times before, but today something about his brother's words struck differently. They carried a weight that seemed heavier than usual, as though they came from wounds that hadn't fully healed. That's why I'm telling you, his brother continued, turning to him with a serious expression. Be careful with girls out there. Most of them aren't genuine. It's so hard to find someone who really loves you for who you are, not what you have. Jungkook paused, mulling over his brother's words. Are all girls really like that? He wondered to himself. Having seen his brother go through heartbreak time and again, Jungkook had always taken the advice to heart. But now, for the first time, he felt a flicker of doubt. Maybe it was time to find out for himself. That night, after dinner, Jungkook returned to his room. Sitting at his study desk, He stared blankly ahead, lost in thought. His mind drifted back to the conversation at the campus a few days ago, where his classmates had animatedly discussed a dating app. They had been so excited, talking about how people could find partners, or at least new friends, through the app. Jungkook bit his lower lip, hesitant. Maybe I should try it. Not to look for a girlfriend, but just to see if it's true that girls out there only care about looks and money. After a few moments of contemplation, he finally picked up his phone and searched for the app in question. If my brother can keep getting disappointed, I need to find out for myself, he thought. The app was quickly downloaded and installed, and Jungkook began registering with a fake name, ensuring that none of his personal information could be identified. He didn't even upload a profile picture, opting for a blank avatar instead. As he browsed through profiles of women his age, he saw countless accounts with photos of beautiful girls, smiling sweetly or striking charming poses. But Jungkook remained skeptical. Maybe they're just like the girls my brother talked about. Just as he was about to lose interest, his eyes caught on a profile that stood out. No profile picture, no flashy name, just a blank avatar, and a simple description. Why didn't she use a photo? Curious, Jungkook clicked on the profile and initiated a private chat room. He typed a simple message. Hi, how are you? As he waited, he felt a mix of emotions. A part of him thought it was ridiculous to start a conversation with someone he didn't know at all. But a few minutes later, a notification pinged, signaling a reply. On the other side, Yin lay on her bed, listening to music. She jumped slightly when she heard a notification ping from her phone. Huh, someone sent me a message? She wondered, glancing at her phone. Opening the app, she saw a message from a guy without a profile picture. Just like me, he didn't use a photo either. Yin felt a bit intrigued, perhaps because they had a similar approach. Hi, I'm good. How about you? She replied. The chat began. At first, the two exchanged simple, casual messages, introducing themselves without revealing much personal information. Real names? Kept secret. Where do they study? Also off the table. Instead, they talked about hobbies, favorite movies, and music. I like R&B. What about you? Jungkook typed. I'm more into pop and indie, Yin replied with a small smile. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, even though neither knew the other's true identity. It was just curiosity and a desire to talk, free of judgment or pretense. This is weird, Jungkook thought as he stared at his phone screen. I'm not really into these dating apps, but talking to her feels different. We don't know who we really are, but maybe that's what makes it interesting. He felt at ease, knowing that the conversation wasn't driven by any expectations about appearance or social status. It was simply about enjoying the exchange of words. Meanwhile, Yin felt the same way. She had never thought using a dating app would give her this kind of feeling, the comfort of talking to someone without being judged by her looks or who she was. Maybe this is what I was looking for, she thought. Not for dating, but for a friend to talk to who really cares about the conversation, not anything else. And so, their conversation carried on late into the night. Although their identities remained a mystery, a sense of comfort began to grow between them. After that chat through the dating app, Yin and Jungkook went back to their usual lives at campus. Neither of them revealed their true identities during their exchanges, but their conversation that night left a lasting impression on both. Unbeknownst to them, the person they were chatting with was someone they already knew in real life. But for now, the mystery remained. So, what do you want to talk about? It didn't feel like a week had already passed with them chatting almost every night. Yin thought for a moment. That night, something had been bothering her. She wanted to ask a man's perspective on it directly. Actually, I want to get your opinion on something. I have a classmate. He's handsome, but it seems like he really hates women. Every time someone confesses to him, he always rejects them, saying he doesn't trust them and thinks they might just want to use him. Jungkook froze for a moment as he read the message. His heart skipped a beat. It felt as if the girl was describing him, but he decided to remain calm and reply carefully. Maybe your friend had a bad experience. Perhaps he saw someone close to him get betrayed, or he himself went through something similar. Yin stared at her phone screen, her thoughts drifting. A bad experience? So, do you think it's all because of past trauma? Does that mean he'll never like women again? Jungkook, reading the message, was slightly confused. What do you mean by he'll never like women again? I'm worried that he's given up and might start liking other men. Could that happen? Yin asked hesitantly. Jungkook chuckled softly at her message. I can't say for sure whether he'd start liking other men, but I don't think that's necessarily the case. Maybe your friend is like me. I'm also not ready to open my heart to any woman right now. Yin paused as she read his message. Unconsciously, she began to sympathize with this mysterious man. Wow, so you also find it hard to trust people? That must be tough. But you still like women, right? Jungkook laughed quietly behind his phone. He rarely opened up like this, but chatting with this girl always felt different. Of course, I'm still interested in women. I'm just taking my time to open my heart. But you know, I once met a girl in class who was different. She's beautiful, but seems so innocent. She never gets close to any guy, even though many like her. Yin read the message and suddenly felt exposed. Innocent and unwilling to get close to guys? That sounded like her, but she decided to play it cool. Ha ha ha. An innocent girl? It's rare to find someone like that nowadays. Yeah, it's rare, but she exists. Sometimes I wonder why she doesn't try dating. Maybe she's scared or doesn't understand what love is. Yin paused, her eyes lingering on her phone screen. His words made her reflect. What is love? She had never truly felt it before, and honestly, she was also unsure of what it really meant. Finally, she decided to ask, what do you think love is? Does it always have to be about possession? Jungkook read the message carefully and smiled. He found the question thoughtful, as if it came from genuine curiosity. Love? I'm not sure either. But to me, love is more than just possession. Sometimes, it's about the comfort you feel knowing there's someone who cares for you, who's always there for you, even without having a formal relationship. Yin read his response over and over. His words felt warm and meaningful. She thought that the man behind this account seemed to understand love better than she did. You seem to know a lot about love, even though you said you've never been in a relationship. I've never been in a relationship, but I've heard plenty of stories from my friends who have. I've learned a bit from them. Yin read his response, but was suddenly reminded of how Mina, Yuna, and Yuju often teased her about never having been in a relationship, joking that it meant she'd never kissed or hugged anyone. She bit her lower lip, debating whether to ask the mysterious man about it. We don't know each other's real identities anyway, she thought. Can I ask you something? It might be a bit inappropriate, but I feel like I can ask you because we don't really know each other. She sent the message, her heart pounding. What do you want to ask? Do people in relationships always kiss, hug, or maybe even more than that? Yin's cheeks turned bright red as she sent the message. The reply came shortly after. Speaking from a guy's perspective, I'd say it's almost certain to happen. Yin was surprised by his answer. Why? Why does it have to be like that? Isn't love supposed to be pure? Isn't that just lust? Jungkook smiled faintly at her reply. He suddenly thought of Yin, wondering if she was this innocent too. Finally, he began typing. Love and lust are different, but for men, they go hand in hand. It's not because we want it that way. It's just how the body's natural cycle works. Yin, read his message, feeling even more confused, yet more curious. What do you mean? Can you explain it in detail? Don't leave me hanging. Jungkook read Yin's message and smiled faintly. He found it amusing how this girl could be so innocent yet filled with curiosity. Gently, he began typing his response. Alright, let me explain. When a man falls in love, two things usually emerge simultaneously. First, the emotional affection, the desire to protect and make the woman he loves happy. Second, the physical drive. This is a natural bodily response that cannot be avoided. However, it's not solely about lust. That drive often appears as a form of wanting to be closer to the person he cherishes. Yin read the message carefully. Even though she felt embarrassed, the explanation made sense to her. Yet, there was still something she didn't fully understand. She typed again with her heart pounding. So, you're saying it's normal? Then does that mean men always want more than just kisses and hugs? Jungkook replied calmly, not always. It depends on how much respect the man has for the woman he loves. A man who truly loves her will know when to stop himself and won't force anything. If he keeps pushing, it means he values his desire more than her feelings. Yin fell silent. Jungkook's answer felt sincere and logical. She typed her response with a slight smile. I think I understand now. Thanks for explaining. But her curiosity didn't stop there. She hesitated for a moment before sending another message. So, what about you? Are you the type to keep pushing someone you love? Jungkook chuckled softly at the question. For some reason, he felt that this girl was starting to get curious about him. If I said I've never had such urges, I'd be lying. I'm just an ordinary, normal guy. Yin read the message, her eyes widening. Her hands trembled slightly as she typed her reply. So, do you think it's natural to feel that way? But how do you manage to control yourself if those feelings are already there? Jungkook smiled. It's completely natural. Even the most well-mannered men have felt that urge, the desire to be close in that way. But what makes the difference is how they deal with it. Yin swallowed hard as her heart pounded. But, isn't it hard to hold back? She asked again, her curiosity now unstoppable. Jungkook chuckled softly as he read her question. He knew this would be a long conversation, but he didn't mind. Of course it's hard. Yin lay down on her bed, clutching her phone with a mix of emotions. Tonight's conversation stirred an unusual curiosity in her. She mustered the courage to type one more question. Can I ask one more thing? But it might sound a little strange. Jungkook, lying in his own bed with his phone in hand, read the message with a smile. He found her type of curiosity endearing. Of course, there's nothing strange if it's something you want to know, he replied casually. Yin took a deep breath before typing again. Why do men have those urges? Is it natural? And why does it seem harder for men to control them compared to women? Jungkook blinked, slightly surprised by her bold question. After a moment of thought, he began to type a careful response. It's natural. It's part of how a man's body works. We have hormones that influence our thoughts and feelings. So, those urges can surface at any time, even without a specific trigger. Yin read the message, biting her lower lip. After some thought, she asked again. So, you mean even without thinking about it, you can still feel it? Jungkook chuckled to himself. He found her innocence truly charming. Yes, exactly. For instance, men can have something called a wet dream. It happens while we're asleep, without us realizing it, and it's completely out of our control. Yin's eyes widened as she read the explanation. Wet dream? So you can. That, even without being aware? How does that even happen? She asked again, now more curious than ever. Jungkook smiled at her question and patiently explained. It's the body's way of maintaining balance. If we go too long without, releasing, the body will handle it automatically. It's not something we plan or intend. Yin felt her face heat up as she processed his words. She bit her lip, marveling at the things she was learning tonight. I see. So that happens to all men? She asked again. Yes. Almost all healthy men experience it. That's one reason why people say it's harder for men to control themselves. But it doesn't mean we can't control those urges when we're awake. It's just that our bodies have their own ways of maintaining balance, Jungkook explained patiently. Yin fell silent for a moment, digesting the explanation. She felt slightly embarrassed for asking such a question but also relieved by his honest answers. I honestly didn't know that. Thank you for explaining. I don't think I've ever thought about it this way before, she finally replied. Jungkook smiled softly at his screen. He felt tonight's conversation with Yin was getting more and more interesting. After answering her innocent questions, a thought crossed his mind. With quick fingers, he typed a new message. Now, it's my turn to ask. Have you ever felt those urges yourself? Yin's eyes widened in shock as she read his message. Her cheeks flushed instantly. She bit her lip, hesitating about how to answer. After a few moments of thought, she decided to be honest. Me? Never. I don't think I have feelings like that, she replied, her heart racing. Jungkook raised an eyebrow at her response and chuckled lightly. He found it hard to believe. With growing curiosity, he typed back. Impossible. Everyone has them, even women. It's natural. Yin read his reply, her expression puzzled. She found it odd that he seemed so sure she was mistaken. But I really haven't. Could it be that I'm different? She replied, starting to doubt herself. Jungkook read the message and let out a deep sigh. He felt this girl was too innocent to fully grasp what he meant. He decided to rephrase his question to make it simpler. When you see someone you admire, have you never felt even a tiny bit of physical attraction? Like your heart beating faster, or maybe the urge to hug or kiss him? He typed, hoping this would help her understand. Yin read the message carefully, her cheeks flushing. My heart has raced before, but that's more because I was shy or nervous. Jungkook furrowed his brows, still unconvinced. Seriously? You've never felt it? Not even curiosity or dreams about it? Yin let out a long sigh, feeling a bit frustrated and worried about herself. No, I really never have. I've never even dreamed about things like that. I also never think about such things. Jungkook shook his head with a small laugh. I see. Maybe it's because you've never really been attracted to someone before. Maybe so. Well, thank you for answering all my questions. You've really helped me a lot. You're welcome. That was Jungkook's only reply. A faint smile played on his lips. For some reason, this girl's innocence reminded him of Yin. Truthfully, ever since Jungkook learned about Yin and realized she was different from how his older brother often described her, it had made him curious and stirred something different in his heart. Jungkook had to admit that he was beginning to feel drawn to Yin, not as a friend, but in a more romantic sense. However, he had yet to plan an opportunity to get closer to her, especially since he knew that Yin often seemed confused about her own feelings. He believed there was no need to rush. 1 week later, In class, Yin and Jungkook continued their usual routines. They didn't speak much to each other directly, but somehow, something about Yin seemed different, and Jungkook noticed it. Sometimes Yin was caught sneaking glances at him, and in those moments, their eyes would meet, followed by small smiles exchanged between them. Even Jungkook, who was typically cold and aloof, started looking at Yin with a softer gaze, which didn't go unnoticed by his friends. Come on, bro. If you like her, why don't you make a move? Don't just stare at her all day. You might lose her to someone else, Minju teased while nudging Jungkook's arm. Shut up, Jungkook muttered, rolling his eyes. Shortly after, their professor entered and began the lecture. Midway through, the professor announced a group project that needed to be completed within a week, with each group consisting of 2 students. The students began whispering among themselves, hoping to be paired with someone compatible. But when the names were announced, a surprise awaited Jungkook and Yin. The next group, Jungkook and Yin, the professor called out. Yin, who was busy jotting down notes, quickly looked up. Meanwhile, Jungkook, seated not far from her, remained calm, though his eyes betrayed a hint of surprise. They had never worked together on a project before, but now they had no choice. After class ended, Yin approached Jungkook. Jungkook, it seems like we need to plan when to work on this project. How about we start tomorrow? Yin suggested, her face slightly flushed. Jungkook looked at her with a faint smile. Alright, tomorrow afternoon, at the library, after class? Yin nodded. Okay, I'll see you there. That evening, Jungkook sat in his bedroom, feeling strangely restless. He was unexpectedly eager for the next day, knowing he'd get to spend time alone with Yin. Though he had initially tried to deny it, his feelings for Yin had grown stronger over time, becoming undeniable. Suddenly, his phone vibrated. A message from the chat room of an online dating app appeared. Hi, what are you up to? The girl asked. Nothing much, just relaxing. You? Jungkook replied, starting to type a response. A few seconds later, a new message from the girl appeared. I think I finally understand what you asked me last time, about whether I've ever been attracted to someone. I think I'm starting to realize that I have, and it seems like I've fallen for someone. Jungkook smiled faintly and began typing. Well, congratulations, you've fallen in love. But are you sure it's really love? Another reply came soon after. I'm not sure, but I know I like him. I always want to see him, and there's this strange but pleasant flutter in my heart whenever our eyes meet. I even feel like I want to have him now. Honestly, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but since we don't know each other, I guess it's okay. That's great. It seems like you really do like him, Jungkook replied with a smile. Yes, it seems so. I'm starting to feel the kind of emotions you talked about back then, Yin replied, her cheeks flushed. Meanwhile, Jungkook, reading the message, raised an eyebrow. What kind of feelings? Yin typed with her cheeks growing warmer. The urge to kiss and hug him. I even dreamed about it once. Jungkook's eyes widened as he stared at the screen. He chuckled softly, realizing that this once innocent girl was no longer entirely so. Curious, he typed back. What did you dream about him? A response quickly came through. Are you curious? I'm too embarrassed to tell you. Jungkook furrowed his brows, but kept a smile on his lips. For some reason, this conversation felt amusing to him. Just tell me, we don't even know each other, and we both know the names on these accounts aren't real. There's no profile picture or any other clues between us. He sent the reply, genuinely intrigued. His mind suddenly drifted to Yin. He knew she was still very innocent, and now he was curious about how someone so pure would think about these kinds of things. Not long after, his phone vibrated again. I'll tell you, but promise you won't laugh at me. I won't laugh at you, Jungkook replied, though he had been chuckling the entire time. This girl was truly adorable and innocent. Jungkook's thoughts wandered back to Yin. Could she also be this innocent and funny? Thinking of her made his heart race. Alright, at first, I was curious about what it feels like to kiss and hug because I was watching a scene in a romantic drama. And before I went to sleep, the face of the guy I liked appeared in my head. I imagined it a little, like the scene in the drama. But because I was sleepy, I fell asleep, and I didn't expect it to continue in my dream. Even now, I'm embarrassed remembering that dream. Jungkook raised an eyebrow, his curiosity growing. What happened in your dream? At first, I dreamed of kissing and hugging him, but then it went beyond that. In the dream, we did it. Ugh, I'm so embarrassed. How could I dream of something like that? Jungkook chuckled again as he read it. Did you not like it? Did you not enjoy it? Honestly, I liked it, and I enjoyed it. I even woke up in the middle of the night, and when I did, I could still feel what I dreamed about. And then, I want it. Jungkook finally smiled. Congratulations, You're no longer a completely innocent girl. You don't have to be embarrassed. It's perfectly natural, especially if you like that guy. Alright, since you've shared your story with me, I'll share mine with you too. Right now, I also like a girl, and I often imagine her. Over the past few days, I've even dreamed about her, and you know what? It's been quite troublesome because I have to change my sheets almost every morning. Jungkook's heart began to race as he thought about the things he had imagined and dreamed of. Remembering it made him want her even more. But then, her next reply made his eyes widen in surprise. But I'm embarrassed because our professor assigned us to the same group, and tomorrow we'll be studying together alone in the library. Ever since I dreamed about him, honestly, I've been really nervous. Reading that, Jungkook wasn't the only one nervous now. He started to feel uneasy. Who exactly was this girl? Why did the clues she gave seem to point to Yin? Oh, that's great. Doesn't that mean you can get closer to the guy you like? Yes, I'm happy, but I'm also nervous. Anyway, thank you for listening to my story. I feel much better now and less overwhelmed thinking about it alone. Good night. You're welcome. Good night. After sending his reply, Jungkook lay back and stared at the ceiling of his bedroom. He was trying to calm the pounding in his chest. Yin, he muttered with a smile. The next day, they met in the library as scheduled. After a few hours of working on their assignment, Yin stretched her back, feeling tired but satisfied. It seems like the assignment is almost done. Maybe one more meeting will be enough. Jungkook nodded and glanced at his watch, realizing it was late afternoon. Outside, rain began to pour, making the atmosphere even colder. Did you bring your car? He asked, though he already knew Yin usually drove to campus. Yin shook her head slightly. I usually do, but not today. My car's in the shop. Jungkook hesitated for a moment before offering, I can give you a ride home if you'd like. It's pouring outside, and it wouldn't be good for you to wait too long here. Yin gave him a small smile, feeling pleased by Jungkook's rare display of concern. She nodded. Okay, I'll take you up on your offer if it's not too much trouble. Thank you, she said, though her heart was now racing like a wild horse. The two walked out of the library toward the parking lot. The sound of heavy rain accompanied their steps, creating an intimate atmosphere despite their lingering awkwardness. Both felt nervous, lost in their own thoughts. Once inside the car, Jungkook started the engine and slowly drove through the pouring rain. Along the way, they engaged in light conversation, covering topics like their assignments and hobbies, but nothing too deep. However, during the drive, Jungkook felt a strong urge to confirm his suspicion. He wanted to know if Yin was the online friend he had been chatting with on the app. An idea struck him suddenly, and he pulled the car to the side of a relatively quiet road. What's wrong? Why are we stopping? Yin asked, her eyes filled with confusion. I just need to send a message. I got a notification earlier, Jungkook replied, making an excuse. Yin nodded, not thinking much of it. She pulled out her phone, opened her social media, and waited. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, a notification from the dating app. Surprised, Yin opened the message without much thought. The message was from her online friend. Hey, where are you? At the same time, Jungkook watched Yin's reaction from the corner of his eye. When he saw her open the same app, his heart began to race. It must be her, he thought. Now, he just needed to confirm it. Jungkook quickly typed another message. I'm on the way with a classmate. It's raining outside, and we've pulled over for a bit. Are you busy? Yin's phone vibrated again. As she read the message, her hands trembled slightly. This couldn't just be a coincidence. The message was too specific. Was her online friend really Jungkook? Carefully, she replied, I'm on my way home with a friend. You wouldn't know him. A few moments of silence passed in the car. The sound of the rain was the only thing filling the air. Then, Jungkook gave a small smile, no longer able to hold back. Yin, we don't need to pretend anymore, do we? Jungkook said suddenly. Yin turned to him quickly, her eyes wide. What do you mean? Jungkook glanced at his phone and then back at Yin with a knowing look. My online friend. It's you, isn't it? He said, locking eyes with her. And I think you've already figured out who I am too. Yin froze, her face turning crimson with embarrassment. This was the end of her charade. She couldn't hide the truth anymore. So you're my online friend? She asked, her voice trembling. Jungkook smiled softly, though his heart was racing uncontrollably. It seems so. We've been confiding in each other about ourselves, not realizing we were talking about one another. Yin lowered her head, covering her face with her hands. She was mortified, especially since she had confessed so much about her feelings for her classmate, Jungkook himself, on the app. Oh my, I said so many things about you, she mumbled, unable to meet his gaze. Jungkook chuckled lightly. Me too. We were both honest on the app, but maybe that's what made us understand each other better. Even when we talked about the people we liked, it turned out to be us all along. Finally, Yin looked up, her eyes meeting Jungkook's. They both laughed softly, feeling foolish yet strangely relieved by what had unfolded. So, the girl you like, is it really me? Yin asked nervously. Jungkook's smile turned gentle, devoid of his usual cold demeanor. He nodded. Yes, I like you. At first, I wasn't sure, but after all this, I don't want to lie anymore. Yin smiled, though her face was still burning red. She was happy Jungkook had confessed his feelings, but at the same time, she was embarrassed remembering everything she had shared in their chat. In the quiet of the rain-soaked evening, they sat in silence. Jungkook's gaze softened as he looked at her, a faint smile playing on his lips. So, about that dream of yours. Stop, Jungkook, don't go there. Yin cut him off, utterly mortified. Jungkook gently took her hand, his touch warm and reassuring. Yin immediately lowered her head, unable to meet Jungkook's gaze. Yin, you don't have to be embarrassed, especially not with me. Didn't I also share my thoughts about you? You're not alone in this. I feel the same way. Slowly, Yin raised her head, realizing he was right. It wasn't just her. Jungkook had been equally vulnerable with her. She finally mustered the courage to look at him, and their eyes met, both smiling shyly. So, do you still want me to kiss and hug you now? Jungkook teased with a playful tone. Yin's eyes widened in shock, and she quickly shook her head. She was utterly mortified. Jungkook chuckled softly at her reaction, unfastened his seatbelt, and leaned closer to her. You don't? What a shame, because I really want to right now. Before Yin could respond, he gently pressed his lips against hers. Yin froze, completely taken aback. After a few seconds, Jungkook pulled back slightly, his eyes searching hers. Why didn't you kiss me back? Didn't you want this too? He asked, his voice husky. A moment later, Jungkook leaned in again, capturing her lips once more. This time, Yin responded, his kisses soft and tentative, and Jungkook took his time, not rushing, ensuring she felt comfortable. His hands gently unbuckled her seatbelt, and in one fluid motion, he lifted her onto his lap. Their kisses deepened, becoming more intense as they lost themselves in the moment. Minutes passed before they finally broke apart, both breathless. Jungkook smiled, his lips brushing against hers as he whispered, Are you still curious about other things besides kissing? Yin didn't answer, but her half-lidded eyes gave away her thoughts. Jungkook leaned in again, his lips claiming hers, this time with more intensity. Her fingers threaded through his hair as their heated breaths and soft sounds filled the air, mingling with the rhythm of the rain outside.